It's Christine Wilson and Saphira Galoob, and you'll thank us later. Tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. Bring it on, girls and boys.
You know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me. They're going to hate us, Saphira. It's going to be nuts.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm like all set to say I'm sorry that I look like shit. I'm in a weird hotel room. I'm totally not prepared this morning. And then you guys reminded me that the episode is about over apologizing. So I'm not going to apologize. But Saphira, you're in a hotel room too. Where are you?
I know. I told you that this episode should be called The One Where Christine and Saphira Are in Shitty Hotel Rooms Again.
I'm in a party town. I'm in Miami. Where are you?
Girl, I may have a one-up on you as a party town. I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh. Well, we both should get out our spandex and our sequins and get ready to party, huh?
Oh, God. I will tell you, on like the old magazine world where it was like do and don't in terms of what people wear.
Yeah.
This is like the epitome of you shouldn't ever, not even in Vegas.
Yeah. But if there is a place you can get away with the worst outfits on the planet, it's Vegas.
God. I mean, I'm not even talking about like body type or body shaming. I'm just talking like people with bad aesthetic taste. It's just really, well, actually, there is one thing I think you would really appreciate is the rodeos come to town. And everybody's got, there's AWS, so Amazon Web Services, MJ BizCon, which is the huge cannabis conference, like tens of thousands of people. And then the rodeo is in town.
All there.
And so it's the rodeo people, they look the best.
They do. That's my new personality. Cowboy hat every day if I could. I have a bunch of friends at the AWS conference. I think they're all heading home today. There's more, I think, tonight, but they were like, we're getting out of there.
Yeah. Well, I had to come for a couple of parties, and the joke is, how long can Saphira stay out? Because I'm such an early night. I mean, when I was in high school, I didn't even have a curfew because my mother knew like at 10 o'clock, I would just want to come home and go to sleep. So these folks that really push it hard and they are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're drinking and they're smoking cigarettes and they're smoking weed. I'm like, folks, first of all, it's 3 hours later where my body clock says it is.
Right.
And secondly, I'm old enough to be all of your mothers.
Well, Nicole and I went to MJ BizCon a few years ago and we were like the contact high. You don't even need to smoke your own weed. You just walk out the door of the conference and you're all set.
Yeah, just walk out.
It's a terpene-rich environment. It's a terpene-rich environment, that is for sure. Well, I'm only here for another, 12 hours. So it literally is barely a night and a half. So I flew in, went to parties, may have slept a few hours last night, which is why my voice sounds a little bit like I had a carton of cigarettes. My husband's like, what did you do? And I said, just say it's sexy and move on.
Well, I appreciate it. I went to some fun Art Basel parties last night, or one. We went to one party. I'm not going to pretend I went to two because I was home and in bed by like 10:30. But I've got two more tonight. So I'm doing that whole is that person a celebrity or not? It's very entertaining.
I've heard about Art Basel. One of my friends from here is heading up there today. Is it just like a celebrity spotting extravaganza?
Yeah. And then, I mean, a lot of these people are celebrities in the art world, so I don't actually know them. My sister's the one in the art world. But yes, mainstream Hollywood celebrities. There's a big fundraiser tonight for Sean Penn's nonprofit. And there's a ton of celebrities that are co-hosting it and attending that. So there's a lot of them around, but they're generally not where I am. I'm not hanging at although last night we were at the Edition, so that's a great spot for celebrity sighting. But I was just telling you guys, we got to see In Vogue perform last night, and it was so awesome to see these women, I'm guessing in their late 50s, maybe early 60s, look like rock stars, and to perform, and all the music from my era I was like 5 feet away from them on the stage. It was just so cool. Their arms were like solid muscle. They just looked amazing and everybody's screaming and yelling for them. And I was like, God, I love it. I love seeing women that are past what the general world says is their
Right.
prime, who look and are unapologetically
Yeah.
fan fucking tastic. And they were
Well, and that's
so good.
today. So unapologetic. Well, first of all, I'm kind of hoping that that is on trend. I mean, first of all, to perform live like that, it's got to be so exhausting. And when you're, in your late 50s, early 60s, you just don't have the stamina and you have way more responsibilities. So you got to make sure that juice is worth the squeeze, as it were, in terms of how you spend your energy. But I'm so glad they were well received. And I'm so glad that Art Basel featured them because those folks, they're probably in like the prime of their experience with the audience, and the appreciation is like through the roof.
Yeah. Well, the nostalgia piece is huge. And it was just culturally a really interesting event. Lots of people from all over the world and really embedded in art. And those like myself who look at it from the outside and try to understand that world. So,
Well, I'm glad you're
but
there.
yes, apologizing. I think that it's something that women often do. But I have to tell you, Saphira, this is really yours to run with today because I don't think, and I could be wrong, and I'd love people to tell me otherwise, I don't think I'm an over apologizer.
Well, it's, first of all, the fact that you have the awareness around it and that you don't find that you fall into the trap. So I want to frame the issue because I
Yeah.
think it's that, we were talking about what we wanted the podcast to be about today. It was actually on the heels of something that happened in my work professionally. And I was kind of grappling with how to interface with a conflict that occurred that was contributed to by multiple people. I would consider a contributing part of it, but a very minuscule contributing part as to why this thing blew up. And a lot of it was circumstantial. I mean, it's like the type of thing that was like a perfect storm of undesirable sequencing of events and people being in a bad place. It's like one of those things. And it kind of blew up some relationships or it started to blow up some relationships. And my inclination was to race in and take all the responsibility, all the accountability, and feel like it was only on me to put it all back together.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that even as I am in a fairly advanced state in my both self-awareness and my maturity, and I'm a pretty measured person, I just don't get that upset about really difficult things. And I mean, I can look at elephant on the menu, I'm like, okay, we're just going to eat it one bite at a time. And it may take 6 years, but so I don't get upset about really complex situations. But I think I do fall prey. And I think that there are a lot of my colleagues, and I was actually having dinner with an incredibly capable woman last night, and we were talking about some interfaces that she's had with some communications where she was leading with apologies. I said, I think it's really important that as women in different decades and in different times in our lives, that we kind of open up this topic and we think about when is it appropriate to apologize? When is it not appropriate to apologize? Apologizing between men and women. And what are some tactics that one can use that when you have the inclination to apologize, what can you do instead to navigate that conversation, to feel like, you got it from where it is now to where it's going, but without kind of falling on the sword every time.
Right.
When it's not your sword to fall on.
Yeah. And I mean, so did you back yourself up from doing that?
So what I ended up doing was, there were multiple stakeholders. I ended up looking at really where I could have done better and with whom I could have done it better. And I sent a specific note to this person and I said, the following things happened. Here's some extra information that we haven't had a chance to talk about that gives some context. I realized looking back on it, this is where my role could have been, differently played, and the outcome would have been different in that part. And for that, so narrow, I take responsibility and apologize. But I only did it once, and I very specifically kind of own my part of it. But I will tell you, my husband was sitting next to me the whole time, watching me get ready to apologize in the beginning and apologize in the middle and apologize in the end. And then rather than say sincerely and say my apologies again, he was like a horse with the reins holding me back.
Nope.
So when I have the inclination to do that, And then you kind of have to look at the why. Like, why do you do that? What's the why behind that? It's because I'm a pleaser. It's because I want everything to be okay. I want to be the reason that everything is solved. And I also see that there's, big when things blow up, if you want to try to get to the other side of the conflict, sometimes just one person taking accountability and moving on can be like the key to moving out of that conflict. And I don't have a real flight of, I'm not, my ego is not so big where I'm like, shit, I'll take responsibility for it. Let's just keep it moving. And so I
Right.
think there's a pragmatic piece, but it's a fundamental leadership dilemma for women as they're beginning to define their voices. Because if we want women in boardrooms and we want women in C suites, and they're going to be hired by men and hired by other really competent people, being an apologizer is not a leadership quality that is looked upon with a lot of maturity. It is an aspect that if you are a person who apologizes both unnecessarily and also disproportionate to the situation, it reflects that you don't have a maturity that is warranted for those really high profile, sophisticated job roles. And so you may lose an opportunity just because you didn't develop this one area of your communication style. And that's what I wanted to talk about today.
I love it. So I did a little bit of looking and researching just about, in general, why do women tend to apologize more than men? And there's been quite a few studies about this, and it's interesting. Women do apologize more than men. Men typically don't see certain behavior that women do see as offensive. So men will do something and they think it's so insignificant or not offensive. So that's why they're not apologizing. Whereas women see these very small slights as something that they need to take responsibility for, and that they have hurt someone or slighted someone in a way that a man would not even notice it.
Right.
So they found that women definitely apologize more, and that it's actually very detrimental to their moving up in success in corporate America. So one, they end up being held responsible for things that really, like you
Right.
said, really they may have had a very small part in it because they're willing to take the responsibility, and the men are willing to be like, fine, great, you take it, I'm out of here. But also that we have also been taught to be more demure, to be more hold back on things. And so apologizing is one of the mechanisms that we use as women to keep ourselves in that place. I think that because I have always had a very domineering personality, and I also a bit of a know-it-all, I don't generally see, even when I am, that I'm at fault, right? So I don't apologize a lot because, one, I generally think I know what I'm doing, to extremes where I don't, but I think I know what I'm doing. And two, my husband always jokes. He says, literally, I open my mouth and I say, I can't say sorry. He's like, you just literally cannot say the word. You like stutter over it. And I think it's because of my fear of recognizing my own failings, right? So I don't want to admit I'm wrong because I'm a know-it-all. That is my type A personality. So admitting I'm wrong becomes a very detrimental piece to my ego. And so I don't apologize to a
Yeah.
fault where I don't own my behavior when I need to, and apologize in the situation where it 100% is my responsibility. I need to take the onus and I need to say something to the other person. So it's kind of interesting how my personality type has pulled me away from the apologizing. Being able to say, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't get back to your email and it's been a week.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that because it's just a way to easily put a little band-aid.
Soft landing and the delta between when you probably should have gotten back and when you actually did give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually was rude, right? It was kind of
Yeah.
rude. So I can say, yeah, I'm sorry there, because it's not a big hit to my ego.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's like I've stated something absolutely as this is the way it's got to be and this is the fact, and it ends up being the wrong choice or the wrong decision, it is very hard for me to acknowledge that. I have to like work my way around it to like, well, it was the right thing. It's just in this situation, this one thing went wrong, and therefore my correct decision didn't work, but blah, blah, blah. So it's very interesting as I mentor younger women and I hear them apologize. And I'm like, why would they bother to do that? Okay, fine.
Right.
If they want to take it, I'll let them take it. But I really need to be a better mentor and say, don't take that. That is not your apology right now.
Right.
Absolutely not. And I probably also need to encourage the women that work for me to let Christine apologize more
Well,
versus
and
them
I think
apologize.
actually this is a great little sequitur in terms of like when you need to, we'll call it course correct. So let's use that as a visual. So the course correct on something that happened, because there's kind of two ways to look at this. One, I did something that I have contrition about, and upon reflection, wish I had kind of managed it differently. That's kind of a more personal thing. But in terms of this dynamic of looking back at a multifaceted situation, I would really love to think about or encourage people that when they're getting ready to send some sort of apology, to really review the content and say, is there another way to reorient or reset what happened without it being a lead from I'm sorry or my apologies that this went wrong? Because I think that our default is to use words that are, like, whatever,
Sort
call
of,
them filler words.
maybe.
I almost say like I've even seen it where women say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's like the intro. You go into a commercial situation and you want to get the person's attention whose job it is to help you, rather than saying, "Pardon," or "Are you available?" Excuse me. We'd say, "I'm sorry." We just
Yeah.
have it in our vernacular that it just like falls out of our mouths all the time. But it can really be a powerful definer if we're not more intentional about it. So that's like the first thing, is like a laziness around
Yes.
letting it be a filler word. I mean, that's like the first thing, like get that out of your filler word
Well, and it puts you
vocabulary.
on your back. It puts you on the back foot right as you enter the conversation. You're already stepped back and not an
Right,
equal in the conversation right at the beginning.
right, right, right. And then there is the kind of apologizing for your attributes. So I was actually previewing a really amazing, powerful women last night about the episode today. They're all super excited to become subscribers. They said,
Yeah.
even if we don't like the topic, we just want to hear you and Christine just
Right.
chatter it up. And they're people that you know too. I was with Gia
Oh,
Grove.
good. Gia's a big fan.
Yeah, Gia from GVM Communications is where that is her firm. So we were talking with another woman who just bought her company. She's a 31-year-old CEO of a really leading policy company. And we were talking about where, an apology is kind of natural for us. And she was actually, I said, because she's 20 years, more than 20 years my junior. And she was directing some lawyers on a matter. They were advising her and a client on a really, really high profile matter. And she was not satisfied with the way that the counsel was happening. And so she sent a really pointed email that was incredibly thoughtfully drafted, very specific in what her concerns were, very articulate, and was not personal, it was the right way to describe, this is not satisfactory. This is what our expectation is with standards. And then afterwards, she sent it out. She reached out to the woman to apologize to her for being so pointed. And I said, I would love to talk to you about this, because I was a
Yeah.
part of it. I asked her, why did you think you needed to apologize? You did such a wonderful email. And she said, well, I didn't know if it would hurt our relationship. And I said, well, okay, I understand the importance of relationships. And sometimes that outreach, if somebody is a slight offense, that can make it right. And I said, what if you would have said, I wanted to circle back about the tone of my email and ask you if I inadvertently caused any offense because I value our relationship.
Right.
And the person would have said, no, I was happy for the feedback. And then you're kind of positioning yourself not to say, I was wrong or I have regret for something that she didn't do anything wrong, but you're actually putting a little bit of we'll call it a credit in the plus column, because you're demonstrating that relationship is important. And you're acknowledging, or you're just asking for information. It's like premature to say, oh, I'm so sorry if that email came across rude. And so I said to her, I would invite you, because she's a very capable person, she doesn't need me to tell her what to do, to think differently, because you are now at a level and you are working at such a high level, and she's so capable. I'm incredibly impressed with her, but I don't want her to fall victim to this default place of feeling like she has to apologize because she thinks she hurt somebody's feelings. No,
Yes.
no, you
Nope.
do not. So that was
Well,
one thing that came out.
another thing that I learned about in reading about these studies, and this I could probably relate to, and I could see it in, is that women often diminish and undermine their own capabilities, skill sets, knowledge base, their level of expertise. And that's another thing for someone at that age in such a high
Yeah,
place, is to make sure that you don't ever diminish your value. One of the studies actually said they had all these extremely accomplished female academics with years and years of research and degrees, and they were on these panels along with lots of men. And not once did the men ever diminish their skill sets, their value, their standing in
right.
academia. Whereas the women did many times. They
Well,
deferred to the men. They
yeah,
sort of said they were lesser than, and they weren't. And so I think one of the things we have to do is, one, never let your age be something that you apologize for. I started running my business in my early 30s, and I definitely apologized for it quite a few times. Now I'm like, geez, I'm so old. Now people are like, oh, you're too old to even know about social media. So I'm like, you can't win. If you're young, you're too young. If you're old, you're too old. But the other thing is, I've always had a little bit of the imposter syndrome that I probably worry about and sort of apologize for. So I went to go get my MBA and then changed my mind and didn't do it. And then I ended up running a business. And so I'm like, who am I without an MBA running a business and doing all these things? I don't have a graduate degree. Almost every single person that I went to college with has some level of higher education. Obviously, I'm married to a lawyer. So there's this whole like, am I a fake? Am I a fraud? Am I really someone that has the right to speak about things as an expert? And I mean, really what it comes down to it is I have knowledge, I have experience. If someone wants to hear about it, then I have every right to speak about it. If I have no
abs-
audience, then I can go talk to myself in the corner, but I still can
right.
speak about it, right? So the imposter syndrome and apologizing for my lack of bona fides is one of those things that I do think I suffer
Yeah.
from.
Well, and I think that now we're getting into more the personal side because I've got kind of some my own self awareness I want to share. So yours is the bona fides place, and I will just say just before I go into my own kind of my own vulnerability, my own experience as you're sharing, I have my own way of things that I apologize for by my DNA. But I think that that what you were talking about with women not feeling up to standard or feeling they have expertise, it's also it directly correlates with salary
Yeah.
and what they're willing to ask for and willing to like basically demand or propose. There's kind of always this underselling and undervaluing, but we should actually do a whole
Yes.
podcast on salaries. But so what I would say is so similar to you. And I think people misconceive that because of the way that I present myself and my subject matter expertise. And I have a lawyer and a law degree and a master's of law. And, I've run several businesses and I've lived around the world and I speak another language. I mean, like, there's like, okay, she knows what she's doing. But my DNA is that I am, and I'm going to use a word, there's probably another word for it, but I'm going to use the word, the A word, the aggressive. You're so aggressive. And interestingly, when I first started in the cannabis space as a policy person, there were other organizations that were kind of coming up around the National Cannabis Roundtable. And I had this reputation of being aggressive and therefore hard to work with.
Oof.
Yeah. First of all, I'm actually very easy to work with because
Yeah.
I am very collaborative and I'm not, I mean, I'm intense and I will probably do more work than other people at the table. So, you want me on your science team project. But the earlier version of me would say, I know I'm so aggressive and wow, I'm so tight. I'm so sorry about that. Well, what the fuck do I need to apologize by my superpower? I'm apologizing for my superpower. And
Yes.
so now, because I'm like Saphira 5.4 versus Saphira earlier decades,
Yes.
as I say, as you probably can tell, my work style is intense. And some people find that level of energy to be difficult to revolve around. I understand, but this is the way I roll. And if that doesn't work for you, we may not be a good match to work together because this is the way I am all the time.
Not going to change.
not going to change. And I will say that once I came to that realization that one, I couldn't change if I wanted to, but also I don't want to change. And
Right.
so why would I apologize for the very thing that I think makes me special? And
Yes.
so this level of self-awareness, I mean, what I want to say to our listeners is that here you have women who have, by all measurable counts, kind of gotten to where women in their earlier stages want to be. We've got families, which we love very much. We have children. We have marriages that are mostly successful some of the time, or sometimes successful most of the time. I don't know how you describe it. We have our own businesses. We run our own schedule. We've got financial independence. Yet we still suffer from things that other folks suffer from. And so I guess the takeaway that I want for our You'll Thank Us Later listeners to hear is that it doesn't matter really where you are in your journey. If you think that this is an area of development, then it is absolutely worthwhile to address how and where development would serve you professionally, serve you personally, and basically serve your superpower.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I think that opinionated and dominating woman, I've also apologized for that. And I tend to do it as more of like a self-deprecating joke. Like, well, I have no opinions or anything, or I'm just loud and opinionated, which is almost an apology, right? You're putting
yeah.
it out there to laugh at yourself and to allow other people to laugh at it. So it's like kind of a unapology apology.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and
it's not helpful.
I just really invite our younger listeners or our listeners who are our age to take a moment and ask, do I inadvertently fall victim to this apologizing? Do I apologize unnecessarily and asymmetrically for the situation? How does it impact my relationships? How is it impacting my career? And how is it impacting what a rock star I really am? And I think that you can
Right.
let's do what I'm going to use the word an apology audit of
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
Because, and by the way, an apology audit does not take a minute. It's a year, I don't know, 6 months or whatever of the however long one should take to really understand oneself. But I think it is definitely a topic that our listeners would benefit doing, and we would benefit supporting each other on as well. Like if you hear somebody you care about apologize, like I said to this woman last night, I think you're amazing. And I just want to tell you, I don't think you needed to apologize then. And she goes, really? You
I
don't? And I said, really, I don't. I just want to give you another reference point. I think you were right on. But then saying, okay, well, how could you have addressed this fact that you thought your pointed email was offensive? Okay, here's another way to do it. And I think if you've got another tool in your toolbox besides your apology hammer, like just take that apology hammer and freaking put it in Goodwill, send it to somebody else
Yeah.
to use.
Well, when we brought up this topic, I asked everybody on my team, I said, do you hear me over apologize? And they're like, no. I was like, I didn't think so. And so I did say, and Nicole, you did chime in and you said, I'm definitely an over apologizer. And I know Nicole, number one, Nicole wants to always do things correctly. And I'm sure she really beats herself up when she feels like she's made mistakes. So of course she's quick to apologize. But Nicole, I'd love to hear from your perspective and like, as someone who feels like you do over apologize, what would you like to take from this going forward?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is like, I think you touched on all the things that I feel for sure. Like, I'm definitely someone that I know I over apologize. And there's like nuances when I don't even realize that I'm doing it. But also, even in that like imposter syndrome, like my background is not marketing and I am now, a director at M2M. And so I feel like I've always put myself in that place of like, do I deserve to be at this table? And so I think that's the thing is I'm however 4 years in now since I started as an intern at M2M. And I feel like it's just like one of those things where I really do feel like I need to be more cognizant and have that edit of like, I have worked, I have learned, I have fought to be here. I deserve to be here. Don't diminish myself for that little thing in the back of my head that's like, well, everyone else here has this or went to school for this or they, whatever it is, whether it's in work or even just my everyday life, I am where I'm at for a reason and I need to honor those things. And so it's that shift of mindset. And it's probably going to take some time to
Yeah.
realize that one, I'm doing it. And two, I need to stop and pause and think, am I diminishing myself, my value, or my team's value if I'm the one coming off saying, oh, let me just apologize quickly because it makes me feel better that I'm pleasing you or that, making this conversation easier for you when in
Yes.
reality, like, because I think that's my thing is like, I never want to make someone feel a certain way. So I might put the weight on myself instead of dispersing it where it needs to be. So
That's
that,
really, I
they
think, and
can look at
that's
their
such a big thing
equals.
with women.
Yeah.
I think women want to make the other person comfortable, the other people
When I
comfortable.
think the other thing too with women, like, and this could be another topic, but I think this also gets into the mental load that women carry.
Yes.
It's not just the to-do list. It's not just the, grocery list or, this is part of that mental load conversation.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that's my favorite phrase now. I throw it around the house nonstop. If I have to make
Mhm.
every doctor's appointment and I have to reach out to the teachers and I have to make sure everything gets done, that's mental load. And you can't ask me what time the appointment is. I already put it on your calendar. I already did all the hard work. But
Well,
yes,
and
definitely another episode.
yeah, because with the mental load thing too, it's like my TikTok right now is all of these couples, and the husband will say, "Well, you should have just told me you wanted that cleaned, or you should have just told
Ah,
me you needed help. You didn't tell me that." And the point is that you shouldn't have to say, "Hey, the toilet needs cleaning," because you can look at it and tell, or the bathroom, or the dog hair, or whatever it is.
right.
Like you as an adult can see that our child might need this, our home might need this, our schedule might need this. Like you have eyeballs too.
Right. Well, I think that one of the things is interesting is I think the apologizing, there's different dynamics. The doing it in the workspace can be very detrimental to your career. The doing it in your family space and relationships can also really unequalize those relationships and allow you to always be in a position of where you don't have you don't have an equal footing with that person. So but I think the thing we do have to point out is there is the extreme in some ways, which is someone like myself, where I don't necessarily take ownership when I should. And there are plenty of opportunities where I could learn to apologize and own my behavior, in a way. The other thing that I have noticed is I watch a lot of Real Housewives, guys. And you'll watch on Real Housewives, I think one, producers will tell them to get over a fight because they need to be in a scene together. And they do these very false apologies. These like, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry you felt this way, or I'm sorry that this happened and I had some part of that, but it happened to you. And so I've really tried also to not make my apologies worthless. There's no point in apologizing if you're not truly going to own the apology and what your behavior was. You
Right.
cannot apologize for how someone feels about something. That's not owning anything. So having an apology that actually is meaningful is a lot more valuable to the other person. And I think
Right.
that's something I need to work on. And you also need to be willing to apologize without expecting an apology back.
Oh
Even,
my God. Wait a
yeah,
second. That is so powerful what you just said.
yeah.
Say that again.
You need to be willing to apologize without expecting an apology back. And you might feel that you had equal responsibility as the other person for whatever happened. That can be how you feel, but all you can own is your behavior and your ownership. So when you apologize, you have to do it purely for what you did. Now, that other person may or may not meet the moment and do their part. And you cannot control that. And you cannot then take your apology away because they didn't equalize with their apology.
Oh God, that is such a profound relationship dynamic consideration. And I so frequently forget what you just shared. I'm guilty of initiating the apology so that I will get the apology back.
Get one.
It's a
Yep.
motivated intention on my apology so that I will, trigger the apology that I want or I think that I deserve. Oh yeah, I definitely fell victim to that. Sorry,
Me
Giovanni.
too. Yeah. Sorry, family.
Sorry, family.
Nicole, that one
Sorry,
hit home with
husband.
you, huh?
Yeah. Well, I love Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney, I'm actually feel a little relieved that it's not just Christine and I because hi, my name is Saphira. I'm an over apologizer. It's like
But
I think we have a support group forming, Nicole.
I think that whole that's something you can take into many conversations. And this is something I've reminded myself so many times in life. You can't be a bridesmaid in a wedding and be super involved and do a ton for the bride just because someday you want her to do the same thing for you. You cannot give a big gift because that you hope that someday that person will give you a big gift back. You have to learn to do things and have intention to what you do because it has value to you in that relationship with the person and not because you expect anything in return. I think we all forget that in such critical times in our lives. It becomes a chit sheet of I now have 2 ticks in my column and she has 0 in hers, so she now owes me 2. I have really realized in relationships, you have to do what you do because you want to. Now, there are times where that it will feel severely unbalanced. And that is a time where then you can reconcile what your output is in that relationship and how you want to value that relationship. But my point is you can't do the things with the expectation of the same thing coming back.
Right. Well, that's another podcast completely. I giveth, so I expect it returneth. That's
Yes,
really,
I've seen it happen. So I've literally had friends who have said, I was such a good bridesmaid and she's not doing hardly anything for my wedding that I did for hers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's not the point.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't want to apologize, guys, but I have to get over to Art Basel and go look at the art and pretend I know what I'm looking at.
Some pictures that to inspire us.
I will.
I will say this conversation, I really needed it today because one, by kind of having to get my thoughts organized to have a conversation like this for our growing audience, which thanks to everybody for tuning in every week. It's so nice to see our You'll Thank Us Later world growing. But it really helps me also kind of bring top of mind in front of my conscientiousness. And I take this back to my coach, Kathy. How do I want to show up and what do I want to accomplish? And if I want to show up in a certain way, then the words that support showing up in that certain way have to be at that caliber and that measured and that intentionality. And leading with apologies, even if it's accidental or unintentional or motivated or whatever, I think apologies are really, really powerful. And we spend them as if they don't have an impact. And so I think the takeaway here on You'll Thank Us Later is take stock in how you are utilizing that very powerful verbal and emotional weapon. And are you doing it? Is that weapon being actually used against yourself inadvertently? And I think in a lot of cases it is. And I will continue to help young women who I hear apologize things for which no apology is required, necessary. And frankly, apologize just kind of reflects back that they don't have the maturity that they need to be as successful in their career that they can be. And we'll all just be better with ourselves and be better with the people we care about and the people we want to watch succeed.
Well, and I will try to be a better apologizer when I'm acting like an asshole.
I have no experience with that, so that falls on like a deaf ear on me. But
Yes.
enjoy your day. I'm headed to Oklahoma, so I think the next time I will be in the land of cowboys at my house when we next record. And Nicole, what's your world like in the next few days?
Hopefully very calm, just prepping for the chaos that is holidays. So nothing much for me. Just gonna stay at home. I have presents to wrap, get that off of my to-do list.
Oh my God, you've already bought presents?
Hey, you already sent out your Christmas card. You already Christmas out.
It's on my fridge.
Card that went.
Yeah, but I do that every year super early because we take our picture in August and then I buy the cards when they're cheap and I just get it done. But I have not one decoration inside my house. I have not even thought of buying Christmas presents. It is not even in my radar.
It's okay. I haven't either.
I feel like I just finished recovering from Thanksgiving.
You did. Your dishes are just, listen, the silver's finally just been put away in my house. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
Well, I will send pictures of art and I appreciate you guys. And yes, we are definitely growing. Our audience keeps getting bigger and bigger every week. We love having you guys. Please share with your friends, other women that can learn from us and not make the mistakes we've made. And you'll thank us later.
Have a great week, everybody.